Hey guys, so in today's video, we're going to be trying out the frost form. Now, I will say make sure that you read the instructions and watch plenty of videos on how to use the frost form because it is a little bit tricky to use. Now, I'm just going to unbox it and show you all the pieces that come in the box, and everything you need will be in the box. I did purchase this frost form kit from Amazon, and I have seen on their website their kits are a little bit different, but it was way cheaper to buy on Amazon, so I bought it from there instead of on their actual website. Later on in the video, I will show you what each one of these items is going to be used for. Okay, so I'm starting off with three 6-inch cake layers. And what I'm going to have to do first is, of course, unwrap each layer. And then I'm going to use this pink circle to cut out a circle in the cake. And this will make the cake about 5 inches. I'm going to cut each cake layer out, and then I'm going to save the scraps for later. Now that each layer is cut out, I'm going to start by putting some frosting on this pink disc, and this pink disc is going to serve as my cake board. And this is where it got a little tricky. I should have read the instructions, but I thought watching plenty of videos would work out. So I'm not sure why I thought this was going to go in the cake. I don't know what I was doing here, but this was incorrect. That's why I said watch plenty of videos and read the instructions before starting on this project, because this took too much time. So I finally realized what to do. I'm supposed to use the same circle cutter to hold the cake in place using this clear sheet. You can watch and see here what I'm referring to because it's hard to explain. So once I had this figured out, I just used buttercream to put in between the layers, and then I'm just going to stack my cake. Now I'm going to refer to this whole thing as a cake liner, and it was a little bit difficult to get the cake into the liners. As you can see, there's a lot of crumbs everywhere. Maybe if my cake was not as thick, but I like my cake layers thick. So I'm just going to do the same thing with each layer. Once I'm done stacking all my cakes in the liner, I'm just going to place this whole thing in the refrigerator so it can set. Now I'm going to work on my buttercream. So I just used my regular buttercream recipe, and I microwaved a little bit at a time because you want it to be very, very soft and a little bit runny, but not too runny. There are plenty of recipes on their website to be able to use the frost form. So this buttercream consistency is still not good enough. So I'm just going to keep microwaving it a little bit at a time because I don't want to mess up the whole buttercream. The goal is to have buttercream consistent enough to pour on top of the cake. And you probably guessed it, this isn't enough buttercream at all to pour on this cake. All right, so the cake layers have set inside of the liner, and of course it is stuck. It won't come out, and I'm like, what do I do at this point? I struggled to get it out for a while. I even turned off the camera, and when I finally figured out how to get it out, I put it back on and then I took it off again just for the camera, and it was stuck again. I finally got it out. The layers are looking nice and neat in that liner. So now I'm going to take the liner off, and I'm going to add a thin layer of buttercream onto the cake to kind of act as a crumb coat. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of crumbs on this cake just because I did struggle to put it inside the liner, and cutting out the cake layers added a lot of crumbs. But anyways, I'm not going to give up. So then I used the scraper that they gave us just to scrape and at least do some type of crumb coating because like I said, it was very hard. So now I'm going to place the cake on top of the blue cylinder inside of the clear cylinder. Then I'm going to put the liner inside of the clear cylinder. And this is going to seal in the cake inside of the clear cylinder so that I can pour the frosting on top of the cake. Now I'm going to start adding the buttercream on all the edges of the cake, just making sure that I fill in all of it all the way to the bottom. Once I finish all of the edges, I'm just going to pour the remaining of the buttercream on top of the cake. Once the buttercream is filled in all the way, I'm just going to pat that to make sure that all of the edges of the cake have buttercream. Once I patted the cake on the counter, most of the buttercream went to the bottom, so I just added more buttercream on top of it to fill in the rest of the cake. Then I'm going to use this blue scraper that was given in the kit to just smoothen out the top. And then I'm going to place this in the freezer for about a couple hours to set. The cake is solid and out of the freezer, but I did notice a little bit of crumbs. Once the cake is set and out of the freezer, I'm going to do the same steps that I did before. Put the cake on the blue cylinder and take the clear cylinder off, and it should just pull right down. Then I'm going to take the clear liner off, and then the cake is ready. Well, I thought it was ready. There's a lot of crumbs in my final coat. I was so sad. So I'm just going to place the cake on a regular cake board, and I'm going to remove the cake board that came with the frost form. Not sure why a piece of my cake came off. I was like, are you serious? But I did end up using buttercream to add that piece back on the cake. By the way, this is a strawberry flavored cake, so that is why it is this color. Then I flip the cake back over so I can figure out what I'm going to do about these crumbs that are seeping through my final coat. There were some holes in the cake, and I think it was because my cake layers, like I said, were a little thick, and the liner system that I had was probably a little bit too small for my cake. So I decided to add a thin layer of buttercream around the whole cake just to do another final coat to cover up those crumbs. I actually like using the frost form. It did take some time, so if you want to give it a try, you definitely have to have time. It gave the cake a nice form and definitely made all the layers even. Here's what the cake looked like after applying the final coating, and then I proceeded to decorate the cake. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.